Hello, and welcome to Methanex's methanol safety video for biodiesel producers. Methanex Corporation is the world's largest methanol producer, distributor, and marketer, and is proud to be a responsible care company. Responsible care is the umbrella under which we manage our safety, health, environment, and community programs that help protect our employees, customers, and communities in which we operate. Biodiesel is becoming an increasingly popular fuel choice around the world. Methanol and other chemicals are used to produce biodiesel. Handling chemicals has its risks. Working in an unsafe manner around chemicals can result in fires, explosions, injuries, and even loss of life. We have produced this methanol safety video to help you and your coworkers become more aware of the risks involved and to help you handle methanol in a safe manner. Over the next few minutes, we will explain what methanol is and demonstrate ways to reduce the risk of methanol exposure, fire, or release into the environment. We will also provide suggestions of how to manage the consequences of such events. Remember, when working with any chemical, you are responsible for handling it safely to prevent injuries or environmental damage. First up, what is methanol? Methanol is a chemical comprised of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. It is a clear, colorless liquid that mixes completely with water and has a faint alcohol odor. It is used as a building block for many everyday chemicals and products. There are a number of risks associated with methanol. It is poisonous. It is flammable, both as a liquid and vapor, and, like many other chemicals, it can be harmful to the environment. To help you stay safe when working around methanol, you need to wear the right equipment for the job you are doing. Some examples of appropriate protective equipment include long sleeves, chemical gloves, safety glasses, and enclosed footwear or safety shoes. Personal exposure to methanol may occur by getting it on your skin or in your eyes, inhaling its vapors, or swallowing it. Basic safety precautions to avoid methanol exposure include clearly marked containers of methanol and keep them closed when not in use. Never sniff methanol. Never drink methanol. Always wear the appropriate personal protective equipment for the task being done. Another risk factor of methanol is that it is flammable. It can burn in liquid form, and its vapors ignite easily and can explode in confined spaces. Methanol fires are particularly dangerous because the flames are difficult to see in daylight. Heat waves rising from the fire may be the only visible sign of a daylight methanol fire. Some basic safety precautions to prevent fire or an explosion when working around methanol are no smoking or open flames of any kind. Remove all ignition sources from the vicinity of where methanol is stored or handled. Do not perform any hot work that may produce a spark or ignition source around methanol unless you have obtained the appropriate permits, provide adequate ventilation to remove methanol vapors, and have a knowledgeable tradesperson performing the work. Use explosion-proof electrical equipment and non-spark producing impact tools. Remember that methanol flames are hard to see, and its vapors can explode in confined spaces if exposed to heat or ignition sources. Methanol must be stored securely and handled responsibly at all times. This preserves the quality of the product and minimizes the risk of personal or environmental exposure. Because methanol is poisonous to plants and animals, it should never be released into the environment. So now that you know about methanol hazards and safe handling practices, let's put your knowledge to the test. A tanker truck has just arrived at your plant with your methanol order and is ready to unload. Don't take shortcuts or risks when methanol is involved. Follow the safety procedures at all times during unloading, use, and testing. Before any methanol is unloaded, it is important to ensure that you are wearing the correct protective gear and that all equipment is in good working order. Take the time to inspect fittings and vent lines and check that valves and the trailer are in good condition. Ensure that your paperwork is in order and confirm the amount of methanol in the tanker is the amount you ordered. Next, it is necessary to make sure that your tank capacity has enough room to hold the entire methanol order. This will help prevent overfilling the storage tank. Once you confirm that your equipment is in good order and the storage tank can hold the methanol being transferred into it, you can begin making the connections for unloading the methanol from the truck. It is very important to always connect the grounding wire. Visually confirm that you have a positive ground. It is good safety and environmental practice to properly vent vapors during any unloading procedure. If vapor equalization is required, make the appropriate connection. If there is no vapor equalization available and you have a vapor relief vent hose, connect it to the truck. If neither is available, make sure the tanker is vented to prevent pulling a vacuum and collapsing it. Otherwise, the resulting damage may be significant, as illustrated by this rail car. Hook up the transfer hose, ensuring all connections are secure. It is good practice to have someone double-check all connections, paperwork, and equipment. It is now time to open the valves and turn on the pumps to begin transferring methanol from the truck to the storage facility. It is critical to monitor the transfer process at all times. An operator should monitor both the truck and storage tank to ensure that methanol is pumping out of the truck at an equal rate to the rising storage tank level. If there is a difference in these rates or if a leak is detected, unloading should be stopped immediately and connections secured. Once the truck is fully unloaded, the pump should be shut off and valves closed. Disconnect the vent line or close vent valves. Remember, there will still be some methanol remaining in the transfer hose, so disconnect the hose carefully to prevent any spills or exposure to methanol. Properly secure the hose and disconnect the grounding wire. With unloading now complete, paperwork should be finalized.
Thank you very much.
After the truck leaves, the area should be secured. Now that methanol is in your storage tank and ready for use, remember that it must be stored securely and transferred carefully to prevent any environmental or personal exposure. Tanks should be vented away from people and ignition sources. If you store methanol in smaller quantities, ensure the containers are tightly sealed, properly labeled, and kept in a well-ventilated area at all times. Storage and labeling should comply with your local regulatory requirements. Eliminate sources of ignition from where methanol is stored and handled. You should not perform hot work or other hazardous maintenance procedures around methanol. Hot work is any operation that may produce heat or sparks or involves open flames. This includes, but is not limited to, cutting, grinding, soldering, and welding. Hire an expert who understands the volatile nature of methanol, has the appropriate equipment, and knows the proper procedures to perform the work safely. When transferring methanol for the biodiesel production process, all transfers should be adequately grounded and fittings secure. The transfer line should be monitored at all times, and the receiving vessel must have adequate room to receive the methanol. Although the procedure for transferring methanol varies depending on the equipment used, all equipment and hoses should be built and dedicated for methanol use. Methanol is a solvent and attacks certain materials such as aluminum and some plastics, so care is needed in selecting appropriate materials. Some plastics may be acceptable for limited short-term use. When working with methanol in small quantities, it is just as important to take the same safety measures as with large quantities. Small containers must be securely closed during transport to avoid spillage and exposure. Ensure you are wearing the proper personal protective equipment, such as long sleeves, eye protection, and gloves. When you work with methanol indoors, such as when you mix test batches or samples, you should be in a properly ventilated area to prevent exposure to poisonous methanol vapors. Even with the most stringent methanol safe handling practices in place, there is still a chance that an incident may occur that will affect people or the environment. Every site should have an emergency response plan in place for handling worker exposures and other types of incidents. Review it regularly so you know how to respond quickly, responsibly, and effectively in the event of an emergency. Personal exposure to methanol can be life-threatening. If a person has been exposed to methanol, they must be treated immediately. If you are not wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment when you need to respond quickly and assist a coworker who has been exposed to methanol, it is imperative that you also thoroughly wash any areas that may have come into contact with methanol. Do not get methanol in your eyes. Blindness or eye damage can result. If you splash methanol in your eyes, flush thoroughly with gently running water for a minimum of 15 minutes, lifting upper and lower lids. Do not get methanol on your skin. If you do, remove any contaminated clothing and wash the exposed skin with generous quantities of water. Don't breathe methanol vapors and never ingest methanol. If you suspect someone has ingested methanol, do not induce vomiting. Symptoms of methanol poisoning may not occur for 24 hours. In all cases of personal exposure, obtain medical attention immediately. In the event of a methanol spill, ensure you are wearing the proper protective equipment before approaching the spill area. If the spill is small, you can clean it up with a non-flammable absorbent or kitty litter. Dispose of the waste at your local hazardous waste facility. For larger spills, contain the spill and prevent non-protected individuals from accessing the area. Then, call your local emergency services unit to assist with proper recovery, cleanup, and disposal. Because methanol is flammable and its vapors are explosive, it is critical to do everything possible to prevent a fire from occurring. The best preparation for any emergency is done in advance. Invite your local fire department or emergency services to visit your plant and give them a list of the chemicals you have on site. This information will help them be more prepared in the event of a fire. In the event you suspect a methanol fire has occurred, remember that methanol burns without a clearly visible flame. Stay calm and move all personnel to a safe distance from the area. Stay upwind from any methanol fire. Call your local fire department or emergency services team immediately. In summary, it is your responsibility to know methanol's risks and how to work safely around it. You should take all possible precautions to avoid methanol spills, fire, or personal exposure for your safety and for the safety of the people around you. Some key things to remember while working around methanol are: store methanol in appropriate containers that are clearly labeled and secure. Eliminate ignition sources around where methanol is stored and handled. Do not perform hot work without the appropriate permit and professional assistance. If you suspect a methanol fire, remember the flame may not be visible. Evacuate the area and call your fire department immediately. If you have a large methanol spill, call your emergency response team. Know how to clean up small spills on your own. Protect yourself with appropriate personal protective equipment. Handle methanol with care. and know how to treat personal exposure should an incident occur. Although this video has provided a general summary of information regarding the safe handling of methanol, further information should be sought from other resources such as the National Biodiesel Board, your local environment, health and safety authorities and fire department, your methanol supplier, or by visiting Methanex's website. Thank you for watching. Remember, by being aware and acting responsibly, you can be safe while working with and around methanol.